Hari Om, welcome to another video. I wanted to make this one about denial because one of the, well, it was a step for me anyway, in transformation, and it's still a step. It's probably the step really, but one of the steps that spiritual students, and I've noticed Course in Miracles students, tend to get stuck on, and I got stuck on, is the idea of using spiritual concepts as a defense. And what I mean by that is defending yourself with the very curriculum which has been given to you for your liberation. Because the mind is habituated to its attack and defense cycles, when it comes into contact with a spiritual discipline, such as A Course in Miracles or the Gitas or anything like that, and the Gitas are not so much of a discipline, they're more of a reference, but the nature of consciousness is that it loves the idea that it can take on board things, ideas and concepts that make it seem more worthy or more higher. I don't really know how to talk about it. Make it seem better than others, perhaps. Make it seem, I'm sure you understand what I'm trying to get at here. So taking on board a bunch of spiritual concepts is something that initially is taken on board as a replacement and as a adjunct to daily living. And of course it's when the application of the concepts or the application of the principles embodied by the concepts becomes the stage that you go through, that then changes begin to occur. But initially it seems to be this kind of very superficial taking on board of concepts and ideas that just seem better than worldly ones and seem to at first glance make more sense than worldly concepts and worldly ideas. After all, we all, I don't think there's anyone who likes to live in ignorance completely, and I know there's a saying on earth here that ignorance is bliss, but eventually too much ignorance leaves you in this kind of empty, not feeling, not experiencing anything. You kind of feel dead inside, and so eventually the mind reaches out looking for answers. So one of the things that happens is, and there are only two precepts that all spiritual work rests on. One is that time is not sequential, everything is occurring here and now. Time is not linear, past or future. It's all, if I can click my fingers loud enough, it's all just here and now. And the other one is that there's nothing outside of my own mind, and this is the one that tends to become used by the mind that still finds validity in the physical nature of things as a defense to better maintain, although it's a temporary better, but better maintain its identity. But that temporary nature can be anything from a moment to a year to a lifetime to 10,000 years. So, or longer, hopefully not. I couldn't speak for that beyond, but I remember getting caught up in it probably for about 3 years, and I would see it coming and couldn't do anything about it. I could pinpoint the position in a relationship with someone where I would feel tempted and want to, and perhaps did defend myself with spiritual concepts, but found myself doing it anyway, as if I was watching something going on that was outside of my control, as if there was somebody in the background pulling the strings like a puppet master. And even though I knew that those particular strings shouldn't be pulled, I found myself still in the particulars of the association of watching or observing in that manner, as if I had no control of it, which of course is not true. But as with any element in denial, you never get to the point where the change is valued completely until finally you get to that point. You just get sick and tired of your own bullshit, and you ask within for the healing of that idea or that particulars of that thing, and then you'll see when it comes around again whether you've actually asked honestly, whether you still defend yourself and those strings get pulled in the same way. So the idea that there's no one outside of my own mind really renders me wordless and silent in the face of the world, in the face of every relationship I have. Not that I'm not going to respond with words and things like that, but those words are not going to reflect the nature of defense in the face of what seems to be accusing or pointing or all that sort of thing. So I think Ramana Maharshi, there's a little meme getting around about Ramana Maharshi, beautiful sadhu, who and sadhu just means teacher, holy man, who was asked the question, how do we deal with others in our spiritual? And that's a valid question. I mean, we come from a place where the world seems to be, our experience of the world seems to be one where we're beset by others who are constantly talking at us about their ideas and thoughts and things. And in our own mind, we're making that decision to retreat from that kind of yakety-yak nature of life that really just goes in circles. And so he was asked, how do we deal with others? And he said that simply, there are no others. Everything is a reflection of the self. Everything is a reflection of self, either in denial or as a blessing. But of course it works the other way as well. The temptation to want to defend yourself against accusation actually verifies others. In the recognition there are no others, in the recognition that there's nothing going on outside of my own thinking, that everything is a thought in my own mind, there is no one to defend against. And if I remain defenseless, this is key, if I remain defenseless, then what happens is someone can be yakety-yakking at me, and in my defense, there's a beautiful lesson in the course, in my defenselessness, my safety lies. Read it if you've got the copy of the course. If you're watching this video, read it. In my defenselessness, what happens is that temptation to want to defend myself, I'm choosing against it. Right? It's still there, but I'm choosing against it. What happens is it starts to bubble up. Now, as you'll know, if you've ever been in an argument with anyone or with a reflection of your own populous world, let's say anger or jealousy or anything, you want to say something, you want to defend yourself, and it just comes up and it's like, I want to say something. And of course, that's how it always is at the beginning, until finally there's an authenticity to defenselessness where you are literally and honestly finding yourself in a posture of defenselessness, because there is an inner recognition that your safety does lie there and that there is nothing outside of your own mind. You're just looking at figures in a dream, and why would you react at all to figures in a dream if you truly knew that you were dreaming? Right? But at first, of course, there's this incredible urgency or surging of emotionality, and this is where the healing comes in. Right? Be still. Recognize that inner urge to be defensive, and in your own mind, imagine a circle. Imagine that you are within a circle. It's the circle that you've devoted to the Holy Spirit. It's a special place in your consciousness, in your thinking. Now, in the Course, Jesus says, invite the Holy Spirit in and make a place for him to abide. right? So he can do his work in you, etc., etc. With my students and in my own teachings that I offer, I imagine that, and this has been since I was a young boy, and I went to, I think it was an insight seminar, and we did exactly that. I had no clue what I was walking into, really, but it was a beautiful happening. We imagined a circle, which was a safe place in our mind when it was done with eyes closed, and we invited the spirit in there to abide with us in that circle. And the purpose of that circle was just healing, right? Now, in the upwelling of emotionality, in that old desire or that old practice of defending myself, I can feel that stuff coming up, right? I want to say something, so I step into my circle. This is a meditative practice. I step into my circle. I own the feelings. I allow those feelings to come up. I own them. And as I'm in touch with them, I'm offering them constantly in my mind. Father, take this. Heal me of this. And I'm trying, right? And I'm saying trying because at first you may not succeed. At first you may find that you're distracted and step out of that circular meditative effort in your own mind to address whatever seems to be going on. But you stand still and be still and breathe and just allow that emotionality to come up and to be released. Now, the release of it is not up to you. If you could release the dark energy or the dark light of defensive form association that you have contained within your cellular and genetic makeup, you would have done it already for a better life, but you don't know how to do it, right? So there's this technology that we call forgiveness. There's this willingness to forgive myself for my thoughts about whatever that is, right? Recognizing that I'm the author of the script. I'm the dreamer of my dream, right? And the Holy Spirit then becomes more like the editor, doing some editing on my script and filling in those places that were defensive and everything, and allowing peace to take the place there. So I be still and I breathe and I offer that whole thing to the Holy Spirit in faith, in the willingness to forgive the idea that I think I'm a body in a world beset by other bodies, etc. And let it be in your own words, it doesn't really matter, but as long as there's that connection, that non-temporal connection through the Holy Spirit, you'll be fine. And you stand there and you be still and you don't adjust. If the kettle boils, if somebody rings the doorbell, if somebody's shouting at you, it doesn't mean you don't adjust. You let it all come up in the recognition and the realization that you want an experience that shows you that this world is just a dream. Right? This is where it happens. In the moment where you feel the release of that energy, let's call it energy, of that dark energy, and you don't adjust to it, you'll probably cry, or you might laugh, or you might vomit, or you might cough. Anything could happen. Right? Don't adjust. Don't go out of the circle. Stay there until you feel that it's completely done. You'll know when it's done. You'll just know. Have faith and trust. Right? You'll know when it's done. Now, at first, let's talk about it this way. At first, there might be a lot of crap, a lot of old crap that's got to come up. And you might find that for months or weeks or years, perhaps, that you go through this period where you're crying all the time and you're laughing all the time and all sorts of things. It's really just clearing away stuff, right? You've got lifetimes and lifetimes of stuff. But in your defenselessness and your willingness to step into that circle of atonement, that circle of forgiveness, the action of forgiveness can occur in you in the fulfillment of its purpose in your life, which is to bring you inner peace. At a certain point, and I can't pinpoint this for you, this is your own process. At a certain point, you'll begin to get glimpses of actual light. You'll begin to get little flashes of actual light in behind your consciousness somewhere. And these little kadunk moments are, Doug, if you're watching this, I still don't know how to describe these moments. Maybe you can come up with a better word for it. But these little kadunk moments where you feel like in your consciousness, there's a step or a thing, and then there's this whoosh, this kind of, and then there's light. Right? Now that's the holy instant. And you might say, what do you mean there's light in my mind? And I mean, there's light in your mind. Like you are the light of God. And there's light in your mind just like there's a light in the refrigerator, but you've got to open the door to see it, right? This is how you open the door. You open the door, the light comes on, just like a refrigerator. I know that sounds much too simple. It can't be that simple, surely. Dave, what are you talking about? But yes, it is that simple. And on the other side of that light, you'll have the laughter and the freedom and the love that you are reminded of that you chose to forget in walking away in dreams. And of course, those light moments, those light episodes, those light instants are accumulative, right? They bear witness to the truth in you, and the more of them that you have, and hopefully quickly in succession so that your ego doesn't recover and you end up walking the world going, oh, I saw the light once. One of those people. The more of them you have, and quickly, they form a more solid, a more trustworthy, a more, I'm looking for a word here, a more foundational witness to the truth in you. That's probably not the word I was looking for, but a witness that can't be denied. Now, if you're afraid to have those experiences, if you're afraid to realize that there actually is a portal or another kingdom within you, that life is not this physical frame that you've grown accustomed to in the forgetting of your true nature, then all of that's going to have to wait, right? There has to be this building of faith, this building of trust and all of these sorts of things, so that when you begin to go beyond the nature of physical life and begin to have experiences of the light in your mind, that you're no longer threatened by it, or that you no longer feel afraid from it and recoil. Because one of the things that can happen in that circle is the experience of what they call in the East the void, or a gap. But there is no gap in God. But there's a moment in that where you feel like you're being sucked down a plug hole, where you feel like you're being drawn into nothingness, into the abyss, into a like you'll be exterminated, or you'll be what's the word, eliminated or something. You're going to lose. And that's exactly what you want. If you don't have that experience, fine. But if you have that experience, that's also perfect. All right, so it's different. Right? It's different. It's not what you think it is. Healing is not the way you think it is. And even in what I'm telling you now, it may not even look that way for you. It can often look like very random and happen chance situations. But generally, you're learning how to heal your mind for yourself, because you are the Holy Spirit. Right? You're remembering that you are the Spirit of holiness. And that'll be nice once you take that on board. But of course, you have to get past all this arrogance that's going to say that that's blasphemy. And of course, I'm not the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is some angelic thing. You're it. That's it. You are the Holy Spirit. You are the love of God. And I'm grateful to you for helping me remember. And I'm reminding you, as you asked me to do long ago before we wrote this script together, and hopefully you're hearing it from me now, or at least beginning to investigate the possibility of this as being true by making your own experiments with it. Right? And I know that kind of goes against the idea that I started with in the beginning of there are no others, with Ramana Maharshi's beautiful answer to that question. But there's a point of maturity where you have an experience so profound, you realize you are one with all things, and then you find yourself back here for a moment in the world as that call, not as a person, not as I'm not this thing anymore. I seem to still have fingers and toes like everybody else, but in my own sense of myself, I'm not even in this body. I'm not even here. I know that's hard to explain, but you have to have a non-here experience, an out-of-body or a no-world experience, because there is no world. This is just a dream. It's just an illusion. But when you have that and you come back here, then it's almost like, if you haven't seen The Matrix, definitely watch The Matrix, but it's almost like you're Neo in The Matrix, where you're unplugged from the machine and then you're sent back in. You know, imagine if he went back in and everybody's telling him, well, you're just plugged into the machine like the rest of us. And it's like, there's no way that he can explain that he isn't, because they're still plugged into the machine. They don't remember what's outside the machine. right? So, and that's where this goes. And you might want to rewind this video and watch it again. I guarantee you that it will have been of inestimable value in your transformative process if you allow it to be, and if you allow it into consciousness simply by listening without trying to judge it or render where it fits in your own sense of your own transformation. Let it be miraculous, right? If you don't understand it, that's just as valuable to you as if you think you do, right? Nothing here is understandable, including this. The only thing that can show you the truth is the truth. Nothing else matters. All right, I love you. Peace, and God go with you wherever you go.